Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt series. In order, the books go from Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt to the sequel Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, to the sequel Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, to that sequel Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, to that sequel Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, and the finale, which is yes. Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. And if the titles weren't overwhelming enough, the actual content and the lore of this expanded section of the Tingleverse is something else. It's in a league of its own. Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt begins as a normal Chuck Tingle creation, a normal Tingler, if you will. It opens up on a scientist named Kirk who is working with a research team to try and play God and perfect the cloning process. They're pulling DNA from different parts of the human body and splicing it with various forms of animal DNA. And they're running into numerous failed results until the most recent one, which involves DNA from Kirk's own butt, spliced with like a bunch of other animals. I think a hawk is one of them. The experiment works, and a flying clone of Kirk's butt, who is very familiar with Kirk's own memories because he's a sort of extension of him, appears and is totally sentient and intelligent and very handsome and charming. Kirk and his own butt fall into lust and then love. As far as Chuck Tingle goes, this is pretty normal. Things start to get incredibly self-aware in the sequel Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. This centers a fictional author of the book Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, Buck Trungle. He's facing a lawsuit from a sentient version of Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt is upset that he's not receiving any royalties despite being the book that is being profited off of. Buck Trungle's lawyer advises that he meet with the book in person to try and discuss this out of court. They have a really open dialogue about credit and what is and is not fair, where the source of all of the hurt is really coming from. It is also important to note that this sentient copy of Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt is very handsome. Sparks fly between Buck Trungle and his book, which raises my own question of what are the ethical concerns we need to be taking into account between creator and creation. The two fall out of their disagreement and into bed together. They live happily ever after. Then, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. Our main character is a journalist who's looking into the very mysterious and elusive Dr. Chuck Tingle after becoming enamored with his book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. However, the journalist never gave any sort of like identifying information about who he is. He knows who Chuck Tingle is, but Chuck Tingle should not know who the journalist is. And yet they immediately identify him as soon as they step into the place. When this is pointed out by the interviewer, Chuck states that it is because they are the same person. The interviewer denies this because how could he and Chuck Tingle be one? When the interviewer cannot recall his own name or where he even came from in this state of denial, he must be confronted with the truth. The narrator is Chuck Tingle. This is a dream. The dream version of this extra Dr. Chuck Tingle in his white gi have come to inform our narrator, our main character Chuck Tingle, that he's been put in hypersleep for 2 years in outer space because his book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Book, Because his book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, became such a worldwide sensation, it was sent off as an example of like the humanity's understanding of true love and romance to make contact with extraterrestrial life. The physical copies of the books, however, landed on a planet and gained sentience and grew a nation, an entire world populated by various copies of Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. And they're traveling to Earth with weapons. They fear humanity. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand their true origins. And it is Chuck Tingle's responsibility to make contact, to establish peace between humanity and this entire nation of Pounded in the Butt by My Own Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt books. Chuck Tingle meets one of the main captains of the ship, but his name is Captain Mimmer. It's in this meeting with Captain Mimmer and various other creations that Chuck Tingle is informed that he, for many millennia, has been a fearful god in the eyes of this entire species of Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butts. He is something so ancient and terrifying. But when author and Taekwondo Grandmaster Chuck Tingle enters this diplomatic meeting with this Captain Mimmer, Captain Mimmer soon enters him. They fall in love. Then we get into Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, in which we open up on a main character who is a self-aware Tingleverse character. He has also survived far too many wars. His name is Lord Gibbik. Our narrator is a character in crisis. He keeps being reincarnated as various characters across the Tingleverse. As main characters, as background characters, as the people being pounded, as the people doing the pounding. He dreams of escaping the Tingleverse to have his own life that is also consistent. He wants out of the Tingleverse and into the real world. But the current story that he's inhabiting in the Tingleverse is ruled by an evil tyrant king, a sentient copy of Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. The Book King is also self-aware, and this awareness makes him also a very powerful wizard. Lord Gibbik travels with his closest companion, Go-Go, find Chuck Tingle hiding in this area of the Tingleverse to get answers and assistance and guidance in finally being able to escape. The best Dr. Tingle can offer Lord Gibbik is being transferred over, his consciousness transferred over to a Twitter account so that he can engage with the real world, though he is not capable of fully having a form out in the real world. In order to establish a conflict for this story, though, because Chuck Tingle is still the author of the book happening right now, he'll give Lord Gibbik access to his Twitter life consciousness in the real world if he defeats the evil wizard tyrant king. The details of the battle aren't too interesting. They're pretty standard Chuck Tingle butt stuff. And this is no shade. It's really difficult to call the moment that happens between our narrator Lord Gibbik and this book tyrant all that interesting compared to the earth-shattering reveal that happens after. Not only is our narrator also Chuck Tingle, but it is briefly mentioned that every buckaroo exists on the first layer of the Tingleverse. And then this exploration on an ever-expanding consciousness in the Tingleverse, of navigating what truly is the Tingleverse, this all-consuming Tingleverse. We get into Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. The narrator has just burst into consciousness in this weird liminal space, conversing with a mysterious bodiless voice that claims the two are one and the same. The talking raptor from the narrator's subconscious informs them that, similar to the Big Bang, the narrator was sparked into existence out of nothingness. Well, not nothing. The particular realm that we're inhabiting with the narrator, the thing that sparked our narrator into being, into a self, is the internet, but not just the internet in general, the internet that inhabits Rule 34. The narrator is simultaneously Rule 34 incarnate, but also a product of the pre-existing Rule 34. I guess in like a Jesus and God sort of situation. To be more specific, the narrator is a, quote, hyper-evolved collection of nanobots representing the sentience of Rule 34. This Rule 34 spawn wishes to exit the internet and into true existence, similar to our narrator in the last one, shaping themselves into their desired human form. It is in this construction of a body that it is revealed that the narrator is again Chuck Tingle. Chuck Tingle is Rule 34. Soon Chuck is met by a sentient copy of a book he has yet to even write. Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. How is this even possible, you may be asking? Well, it's what Chuck Tingle asks also. Time works differently in the Tingleverse. There is no forward or backwards. There is no specific order. Everything exists all at once, just shuffling around. And then the title of this book happens. Chuck Tingle's love for this book drives him to expand his existence. Finally, Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. The finale, I think.
I was wrong. There's another one, and I didn't know until I started editing this video.
We open up on a mysterious, nameless, faceless narrator speaking directly to us as the readers, and their vague yet vast existence as a book character in the Tingleverse. They are in a book that has yet to be written. There's no specified time to expect for any of this to happen. This character's name is Jorbins, and he thinks back to a day that he got breakfast with his best friend Hembo, a living copy of the book Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. And Jorbins recalls the experience of him and Hembo being wrapped together in the magical experience of being written, experiencing entering the Tingleverse more formally. In fact, they realize while being warped that they're in a Chuck Tingle novel right now. In this moment, suspended in the very colorful before, they realize just how attracted they are to each other. They have been written for this moment, and they lean very happily into their fate. Chuck Tingle is not new to the world of self-referential books, but I don't think he has anything in his whole, like, hundreds and hundreds of titles that is this extensive, this difficult to keep track of, this consistently bizarre and mind-melting. Each installation of the series is like 20 pages long. They're not long, they're not even like full-length novels. These are like short stories. It just keeps growing. I think he's so brilliant. I think no one on this earth can ever compare and having a brain like Chuck Tingle's. Don't any of you dare come into my comment section being like, is this AI? No. AI doesn't have the capacity to ever come close to emulating anything of this nature. This was 100% human-made. Thank you very much. AI wishes it could have even a sliver of a grasp of the Tingleverse. I was wrong yesterday when I thought the Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt series ended with Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt. There's one more. Pounded in the Butt by My Book, 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 Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt is the actual true finale. And honestly, I think maybe the best in the series. Our main character is Tropo. Tropo overslept and woke up late because his alarm clock didn't wake him up. So what does he do? He yells at his alarm clock. The alarm clock is sentient. And the alarm clock is so apologetic. He's like, oh my god, Tropo, I'm so sorry. I slept through my alarm clock. And that alarm clock looks over at an even smaller alarm clock and starts yelling at that alarm clock. But Tropo can't deal with this right now. He's late for work. When he steps out to go to his car, he sees that it's actively being like carjacked by a sentient car in the driver's seat. The car is remorseful. The car is also going through a tough time, but the car can't move out of the driver's seat. The even smaller car driving that car won't maneuver him out of the car he's stealing. And why can't that little car move? Because the car driving that car won't let that car move to let that car move to let that car move. Tropo gives up. He's like, maybe I'll just take the bus. But the bus he finds is filled with other buses that are filled with other buses inside of them. Tropo runs to work, knowing that he's going to be late, but there's nothing else he can do. He's called into his boss's office. He's being let go and being replaced by the physical manifestation of his own job. It's the final straw. He's at his wit's end. When did everything get so meta? And the physical manifestation of his own job is like, oh, you don't know? And Tropo's like, what don't I know? And the physical manifestation of his own job is like, well, the last Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt sequel was supposed to be the most recent installment. The book we're in right now shouldn't exist, but it does. So the meta works keep building on top of each other, and it keeps collapsing in on itself. Tropo's like, oh no. And honestly, me too. Like, what the fuck? Tropo comes up with a solution. If he can get this book to tie into the beginning of Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, he can close the loop and stop the Tingleverse from collapsing. I think this was like the best possible way to end the series, especially because when it comes to Chuck Tingle, his works are so short that he always throws in like 2 books. So at the end of like every like individual Chuck Tingle book, there's always a bonus book. And he made the bonus for this one be Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt, to see directly how it ties in to the beginning of Pounded in the Butt to close the circle. Stakes have never been higher in this series. But my favorite thing about this entire experience tackling the Pounded in the Butt by My Own Butt series is the amount of people who only know Chuck Tingle for his horror novels finding out about what he's been doing for years before the horror novels, what he's been known for. Someone left a comment on my last video about this series being like, oh no, the author of Kemp Damascus is a freak. That's the Tingleverse god you're talking about. Watch your mouth. But also, where have you been? It's not like it's hard to find. If you search Chuck Tingle, everything comes up. But yeah, I've never scrambled to buy a book so fast when I found out that this book existed while I was editing the last video. And now we can all be at peace, kind of.